My name is Scheherazade. I was born into the Dar Islam movement of Brooklyn, New York. My father converted to Islam, I believe, around the mid 60s. Then he would give my Shahada, and he would bring her into Islam, and they would get married, and they would have their first son, and I would be their second child, born in the 70s. And I would have a sister that followed that. And
Okay.
pretty much, um, life there would be pretty much described as school, school, school. We would start that off for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and 4 days of school, Monday to Thursday, Friday Juma, Saturday Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Sunday be like, the parents, the elders, they would have classes, and the
Okay.
brothers would like do rod training. That would be kind of what it would look like basically.
Okay.
And and how the school started was it started at masjid, like when we were very small, and they taught you your Arabic alphabet, everything. It starts small
Mhm.
first, just at
Right.
the masjid. But as time goes on, the community grows quite large. So, it would go
Okay.
to a larger building pretty much. And it started off with little vans. And then as the community grew, they bought their first yellow school bus. And then
Okay.
they bought the secondary yellow school bus. So they'll have a
Oh.
girl school bus and a boy school bus. And
Oh wow.
pretty much we bought it actually on the block where street of which I
Yeah.
actually lived on. And we
So
had school. Go ahead,
real quick,
please.
real quick, just so is this community right now? Are you they're referring to? You're talking about like the Dar Islam? Just so are we talking about the Dar Islam community, or is this before the Dar Islam community?
This is the Dar es Salaam community.
Okay.
Yeah, they were already developing it, and this would be like the East New York area.
Okay. So it seems to me that it's very clear for those people who are listening or hating or just in general. It seems to me that the the experience that you have explained so far seems to be like a functioning running community.
Correct.
Uh, Not necessarily just just a big uh, pot of confusion and people who can't don't know their uh, can't get their way out of a wet paper bag, as they say. But I mean, it seems like there's some function there. There's a community there. There's some direction there that should be acknowledged. I think that I try to hit that home every time that it's mentioned, just because of how much is driven into the younger generation's heads that anything before TMOA was just like, I don't know, like they say the cavemen or whatever, that they didn't even know what fire was and stuff like that. So anyway, go ahead.
Right. Right. Okay, so that would be basically how we would live, and our elders, our and abus, they had businesses. And the ladies, they sewed, so they would sell the items. They baked, but it was very, very structured. Very structured. You never missed a day of school, or you were in trouble. But we were taught like from very young ages, all of our surahs. By the time we were 7, we knew all of our surahs and our complete prayer.
Mm,
And so
mm,
much so that it was you would actually be in trouble for not knowing your surahs.
Mhm.
They had you prepared before, by the age of 7, pretty much.
Wow.
And you know,
And
and
real quick. So like, do you remember your teachers from back then?
oh yes, I do.
Were your teachers like Pakistani immigrants or Arab immigrants, or were they African Americans?
African American,
Oh, okay, okay.
all
So
African American.
you were so essentially in the Dar Islam movement, you had African Americans who knew their Islam and were actually teaching their Islam and propagating their Islam. So much so that like you very quickly went from a small little school to needing one school bus to needing two school buses. So not only was it just a functioning Islamic community, it was actually one that was growing and thriving, and that it seemed to have capable teachers and people of knowledge in it.
Yes, it was very much so. Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
And they had, now the actual neighborhood of which we lived in was like, I would say approximately three, like about three combined streets, and they all had Muslims in it. Now the buildings themselves were buildings that were connected. This is, in the city of New York, and they had rooftops, basements, alleyways, and courtyards. And all of these combined actually connected the buildings and you can go through. Now, of course, people of sinister nature usually lingered in these areas. So you could play outside, but you had, the Ummis, they had monitors. You had to get your little note. Your or your Abu had to sign that. You go out to the monitor and she would sign it.
Oh,
now,
wow.
we did slip away. Yeah, we did slip away a few times because they were so interconnected.
Mhm.
And there was windows everywhere. And they had these Venetian blinds. So when we did slip out and going through these courtyards, if they even heard these little teeny voices, you would see that Venetian blind would start opening up. You see that beard and you see that thobe. That means get up and out of it. Or you see the kimar, because we call it kimar then. The kimar and that Umi with that baby, that means get out of there. And they would even do their heads going, no. And we did slip away a few times. And what we would do, we would go through the courtyards, go through another one and into the building. And some of the most adventurous kids, they would go to the rooftop and they called it jumping the roof. And of course, I had to be part of that crew. Yeah, I had to be part of that crew. And we would jump the roofs, come back through a building, come back through the next building because it's interconnected. And then we would come back into the courtyards to the park and actually pretend that we had been there the whole time. So it was, pretty much children play.